Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Found an article here regarding the COLA and the fact that it is not as large as many of us believe that it should have been, with how we are feeling at the cash registers throughout this great nation. So, interestingly, there's going to be some kind of collateral damage, right, as we move into next year. And the headline here from, let's see, this is on Fox Business. So the headline is, Small Social Security COLA could leave retirees struggling to get by next year. Now, we all know that the Social Security COLA was mirrored for VA compensation and other VA compensated benefits, or monetary benefits, rather. So, again, want to read through this, see if we can pick up any nuggets. It's one of those, I guess, unfortunate situations, right? You get it and it gets announced, then you got 3 months, and then finally it gets implemented, and then you got to live all year long with that. So, small Social Security COLA could leave retirees struggling to get by next year. Social Security recipients to see a 3.2% payment bump in 2024. The question is that really going to be enough? All right, so the modest cost of living bump in Social Security benefits next year could leave many retirees struggling to get by as they continue to battle still high inflation that has rapidly eroded their purchasing power. A new survey published by Atticus found that an overwhelming percentage of seniors collecting Social Security, about 62%, are dissatisfied with the 3.2% payment increase they will receive in 2024. In fact, nearly 3 in 5 seniors reported struggling financially as the cost of everyday necessities like food, rent, and medicine or medical care remains uncomfortably high, while about 20% of seniors receiving Social Security plan to seek employment next year due to the small increase. Retirees reported concerns over rising utility, insurance, heating, and food costs. There's a graph. Moving on. More than 66 million Americans collecting Social Security will receive the bigger payments beginning in January. The payment boost marks a steep decline from 2023, when recipients received an 8.7 bump, the highest in 4 decades. However, it remains higher than the 2.6% average increase recorded over the past 2 decades. Now, if you're receiving VA compensation or a VA monetary benefit that is typically paid on the 1st, you will not get it on the 1st of July or January. You will get it on the 29th of December, which should be a Friday. Yes, 29th of December, you should be receiving that pay. So moving on, an increase of this magnitude will raise the average retiree benefit on Social Security from 1907 by about $59 per month. Housing affordability plummets to lowest levels since 2007 as prices jump. And look, we're seeing a 7.4 increase in veteran homelessness. So let's move on. But even with the payment increase, retirees say they are worried about keeping up with stubbornly high inflation. Although the consumer price index has fallen considerably from a peak of 9.1%, it remains above the Federal Reserve's 2% target. On top of that, prices are up a stunning 17.23%. 17.23% when compared to January of 2021, before the inflation crisis began. A separate survey conducted by the Senior Citizens League found that 68% of retirees reported their household expenses remain higher than a year ago, even though inflation has eased. They said the situation has persisted over the last year. Worry that retirement income won't be enough to cover the cost of essentials in the coming months is a top concern for more than half of those surveyed, at 56%. said Mary Johnson, the Social Security and Medicare policy analyst at the Senior Citizens League. And this is a good time to talk about the Senior Citizens League has long been championing for a new way to calculate COLA. Instead of using the CPI-W, they should utilize the CPI-E or some other variation in order to more accurately determine the costs associated with those receiving Social Security. And I would add in those receiving VA compensation. That these calculations don't truly reflect the true costs that we pay in the things that we're spending on, and therefore we are being shortchanged. Moving on. The annual Social Security change is calculated based on the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, or the CPI-W, from July, August, and September, a 3-month snapshot. Let's see here. I'm trying to fling through this, and I don't see anything else, and that's a weird way to end it. But that is how they ended it. Interesting. All right. So now, again, I am a champion of looking for a smart way to recalculate COLA. Now, I would not be opposed to a CPI-W plus, right? So utilize the current avenue in which COLA is calculated, but do a plus figure to it. You know, maybe it's a plus 0.75, maybe it's a plus 1, maybe it's a plus half. I don't know, but a plus something. I think that would make sense. I think that there could also be potentially maybe an age denominator there where at a certain age it's this, and at another certain age it's that. There's been discussions on that as well. There has been two different pieces of legislation this year, the 2023 year, two different pieces of legislation that were calling for CPI-E to be utilized. The CPI-E is the Consumer Price Index for elderly, so the spending habits of the elderly. Now, that's going to include more medical care, more medications, more, whatever from the pharmacy, right? So it would be fair to say that would be something that would make sense for the veteran community as well, since we are all receiving disability compensation from the VA. So those two pieces of legislation, one was introduced in the House, and it was specifically targeting just changing the way that COLA is calculated. The other was a whole revamp on Social Security with a bunch of different levers and buttons and toggles in there, and one of them happened to be the COLA calculation, which also called for the CPI-E to be utilized. And if I remember right off the top of my head, in there they had also talked about what it would have looked like with CPI-E. And on average, I want to say they were looking at maybe 0.25% higher. So it wasn't dramatic, but look, every nickel counts, and it's a compounded thing. So whatever you get in an increase, great. And then you're going to get another increase a year later, potentially. And then that would then increase on the increase, right? So you're compounding like you're compounding interest, which is a good thing. So with that, we'll go ahead and end it there. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.